We've finally reached the end of the line, the culmination of the curse of eternal hatred cast by demise, the pinnacle of evil, and the king of darkness, Ganon. In some form or another, Ganon appears in almost every game in the Legend of Zelda franchise. In this video, we'll briefly be going over Ganon as he's appeared in the games we covered in the last entry. Afterwards, we'll focus mainly on the defeated timeline, where Link was unsuccessful in sealing away Ganondorf, thus enabling him to give in fully to evil and transform into the monstrous Ganon permanently. In the defeated timeline, only Ganon appears, save for a mention of Ganondorf in A Link to the Past. In the adult timeline, Ganon doesn't appear at all, which is unusual for the series. In Wind Waker, there is a puppet that Ganondorf uses to battle Link with that has the likeness of Ganon, but other than that, he makes no physical appearance. Ganon in many of these games doesn't have too much of a personality, as rather than being portrayed as a character with complexities, he's treated more of as a monster of pure evil, becoming more of a stereotypical villain in this case. While we will be looking at what little dialogue we do hear from him, we'll mostly be looking at his actions throughout the games he appears in. This should give us a good idea of who Ganon is, rather than just what he is. Now, without further ado, please sit back and enjoy the analysis of evil incarnate, Ganon. In the last video, we covered all of the games that Ganondorf appeared in: Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess, Four Swords Adventure, and Wind Waker. While Ganondorf was the main antagonist of 3 of these games, Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess, and Wind Waker, Ganon also appeared in 3 of these games and was the main antagonist in one of them, that being Four Swords Adventure. In Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess, Ganon is basically devoid of a personality, as Ganondorf transforms into Ganon once he has reached the zenith of his power, giving into evil fully and becoming a mindless beast. However, in Four Swords Adventure, Ganondorf is only briefly mentioned through dialogue from other characters, while Ganon is given a bigger role in the story. We went over this in the last video, but it's important to mention that the Deku of this game greatly admire Ganon and Ganondorf, giving him words of praise, calling him Lord Ganon, and one of them even mentioning that he adores him. They view him as a god, chanting his name at one point in the game as if they were worshipping him. Once we reach the end of the game, we get several lines of dialogue from Ganon, all of which show his cruel and destructive nature. He calls Vati a useless cur, and taunts the 4 Links, saying, "My blood boils, heroes. It seethes at the sight of you. I thirst for destruction, for the pure release of rage, the power of wrath. Four sword or no, my trident will reduce you to nothingness. I'm waiting, you worms." With these lines of dialogue, we can clearly see that Ganon retains some of the personality of Ganondorf in this iteration. However, he displays a greater amount of bloodlust and superiority compared to Ganondorf. Once he's reached this point, he cares little for anything besides destruction. He displays something in common with every iteration of the character thus far as well: a high sense of pride and arrogance. His next line of dialogue shows this perfectly. "You so-called heroes do not even stand a gnat's chance of harming me. Even if you worms attack in a group, I will skewer the lot of you on my mighty trident." Even up until the end, he shows his belief in his own superiority, as right before he dies, he cries out, "I cannot be destroyed by insects like you." His disregard for the power of others once again leads to his downfall. While before we've seen a lot of dialogue from Demise and Ganondorf to indicate a desire to rule Hyrule rather than destroy it, Ganon seems to only be after destruction. The Ganon we find here in this timeline is a mindless beast, and then a beast with a mind bent on destruction. In the defeated timeline, we encounter much of the same beast, but there is one game where Ganon differentiates from his other appearances, and that game is A Link to the Past. In this game, the land of Hyrule is beset by drought and pestilence. The King of Hyrule offers a reward to anyone who can find the source of these misfortunes. A mysterious sorcerer named Ganon appears and puts an end to them with his magic. Unbeknownst to the king, Ganon was actually the alter ego of Ganon, and he had placed these disasters upon Hyrule so he could save Hyrule himself, thus gaining the trust of the royal family. Once he gained access to the castle, he eliminated the King of Hyrule and used his magic to control all the soldiers in the land to do his bidding. He did this in an attempt to gather the descendants of the Seven Sages to open up a portal to the Sacred Realm, which he had corrupted and turned into the Dark World after he was victorious in Ocarina of Time, to bring forth his minions and conquer the Light World. This degree of planning and manipulation on his part is unique for the character of Ganon. He doesn't have much dialogue in this game, but perhaps in this early stage of his transformation after his victory, he is still able to retain some aspects of the mind of Ganondorf, using it to plot his rise to power, before ultimately succumbing to the curse of hatred and becoming a mindless beast. We can see this becoming more and more true as time goes on, as in the next game, Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons. Once Koumi and Kodake revive Ganon, he has only one thing to say: destroy them all. Kill them all. Ganon also appears in A Link Between Worlds, but in this game, Yuga merges with Ganon, overriding the personality of Ganon with his own, and only using him for his power. As Yuga is his own character, separate from the line of demise, Ganondorf and Ganon, we won't be covering him in this video. We can see now that as time goes on, each time Ganon is resurrected, he loses more and more of his former self, his mind succumbing to the negative effects of the curse of hatred. A being fueled by hatred that has no other motivation than domination and then destruction. In the last two games in this timeline, The Legend of Zelda and The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, we receive no dialogue whatsoever from Ganon. However, in the manual and prologue for The Legend of Zelda, we're told he's the Prince of Darkness, who grew angry when Zelda attempted to defy his conquering of Hyrule and sealed her away. The important thing to take from all these iterations of Ganon are his motives and his appearance. His motives once he's attained this form are mostly born out of an innate desire to destroy. His appearance has once again taken on the form of a hideous boar-like demon, this time permanently, showing the corrupting influence of the curse of hatred laid by Demise long ago. We find ourselves face to face with a being who has succumbed fully to his destiny, and has now become nothing more than a destructive force of nature. The final game I'm going to mention in this video doesn't currently have a place in the timeline, but I feel that it's an incredibly important entry to cover. Now, as I said, it currently has been placed on the official timeline, but it is confirmed that Breath of the Wild takes place many centuries after any of the games that have been released so far. Knowing this, we can now plainly see what kind of negative effect the passage of time has on Ganon, and the corrupting influence of the curse Demise laid upon Hyrule long ago. Now vaguely resembling his boar form, and at one point during the final battle, his appearance as Ganondorf, Ganon has transformed into a being of pure negative energy, which is known simply as malice. He has devolved to a state where he is now devoid completely of a personality, only partially retaining some of his former appearance to even make him recognizable as Ganon. We now have an even better physical indicator to show us what the curse of Demise has done to Ganon and how far evil corrupts those who succumb to it. Slowly over the passage of time, we bear witness to Ganon's descent into darkness, embracing the curse and becoming a nexus of destruction. This is Ganon, the focal point of a deep and terrifying evil that transcends time. With what we know about Ganon from this video, and Demise and Ganondorf from the last two, we can finally get the full picture of the character as a whole. We have one more video left in this series. The next entry will be an overview of everything we've learned so far, examining the key features of each character, bringing them all together to tell us exactly how the curse ended up where it did. Until then, let me know what your thoughts on Ganon are in the comments below, and feel free to tell me if I missed out on anything important. Thanks for watching, and I'll be seeing you soon.